The climate change sceptics have had a very, very good 6 months, you would have to say. They've been in the very peak of form. So what has happened in an unusual collaboration, the CSIRO and the Bureau of Meteorology have collaborated to go and have a look at the climate, get the evidence together and make a state of the climate report, which is going to be released today. We're grateful for the time for the boss of the CSIRO, Dr. Megan Clark. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
First things first, do you all walk around calling it the CSIRO? Or that takes an awful lot of time to say.
It does, and sometimes it's just CSIRO, but we certainly call it the CSIRO.
So here we go. Just rat-a-tat questions from Talk Radio here in Melbourne. Doctor, is climate change real? That is to say, is the climate getting hotter?
Well, what we've seen in Australia is that all of Australia's experienced some warming over the last 50 years, and it's been warmer in every part of the country and in every season. And as each decade goes by, the records are being broken. So the records of the 80s broke the 70s, and the records of the 90s broke the 80s. We're also seeing fewer cold days. So there's some of the information that's happening and what's happening in this country.
Is that in Australia only, or is it worldwide?
Well, what we've put out today is really the state of the Australian climate, because that's where CSIRO and the Bureau of Meteorology, where we have the information. So we're really just trying to provide Australians with a picture of what the records have been showing.
Did you enter it with an open mind?
Oh, absolutely. I think our role here is really to put out information and to allow Australians a place to go to get information, and that they can inform them in a transparent way.
This climate that you're talking about, the climate change you're talking about, do you believe it's been contributed to by human activity?
Well, what we know is that we have seen these changes to our temperatures. We've seen changes to rainfall, the changes in the oceans as well, and we know that those changes are happening at the same time that we've seen human activity in terms of our industrialisation. So we know we're happening at the same time. And
that's all, but you've got to establish more. That's just post hoc ergo propter hoc, isn't it? It follows, therefore it is caused by. That's like saying there have been world wars since we've given the women the vote. It's not caused by it.
Well, and there's about 90% certainty that these changes couldn't have been caused by the natural effects, and so you can never get to 100%. But from what we're seeing, there's certainly a likelihood that these are caused by the human activities.
I turned over my desk calendar one day and I saw a quote, and it was from a woman, and I wish I had written down her name because it's my favourite ever desk calendar quote, and it was this: no one ever changed their mind as a result of losing an argument. You don't see two people having an argument when one person all of a sudden stops and goes, "Oh, blow me down, you know what, you're right." Do you fear that despite you putting out this joint report today that's saying that the world is getting warmer and there's 90% chance it's due to man-made activity, you're not actually going to change one climate sceptic's mind?
Well, look, our role here, I think, CSIRO and the Bureau of Meteorology, is really to put out information for Australians and of course to allow the debate and to allow people to talk about it and make up their own minds. So we're pretty clear about our role, and that's the information and the observations.
I bought a fantastic book a few months back. Had to go and find it. It's been out of print for a long time. It's a scientific study from the 1950s on cycles. Is it possible that this is just a cycle in the vast history of man, a vast history of Earth?
And you're right, we have seen some major changes in the world's climate, if you like, over its history. But there's a couple of things that are quite different this time, and that is the rate of change that we're seeing, and also the same time that our human activity. So it is a little bit different this time, and also the levels of CO2 that we're seeing in the atmosphere now at levels that we haven't seen for 800,000 years. So quite significant.
And finally, Doctor, before you put the report together, which is going to be released today, were you someone who believed in man-made global warming?
Well, I'm a pretty logical sort of person, and I think like most Australians, to see the evidence and see what's really happening, and I'm curious, and we're seeing that many Australians are hearing a lot of noise out there and a lot of information that relates to other parts of the world. And so, like most Australians, I'm kind of keen to see the information and the facts that we're putting out today of what's really happening in this country.
Good on you, Doctor.
My pleasure.
Dr. Megan Clark, CEO of CSIRO.